Welcome to Tech This Way.
Okay, Yasmin, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, okay.
We met 4 years ago when you were CEO, when you were director
of
for
UMCIC, commercialization. Yeah. So that is at least 4 or 5 years ago.
At least 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since
then things have changed quite a bit.
And then moved back in full circle almost.
Right.
I almost got out of it. Almost. But I came back. Yeah. So I actually officially retired from UM in early this year, in May.
Okay.
And had 6 months of kind of glorious peace a little bit. But I'm back. I've rejoined the university and, doing what I really need to finish also, or not to finish, but to move, especially now. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah.
And let's look after the spin-off ecosystem.
So if we go back a little bit to when you were at UMCIC, how does someone become suddenly the director for Centre of Innovation and Commercialisation at such a prestigious university?
Gosh, by accident? No, actually. Really, it's not really to say by design, but it was like a natural progression. I mean, I was a hardcore researcher before this.
Okay.
I've been in university 35 years.
Wow.
35 years.
Where did you start off your?
So start from doing my PhD degree. Then join UM after PhD.
Okay. You were in UM as well for your degree and PhD?
Only for my master's. So I did my first degree in UK. Then I came back to sort of test the waters and did my master's in UM, which was the best time that I had. And
what did you do? What were you doing?
Virology. So I'm a virologist.
Oh wow! We can go into that later.
I'm very current. So I know I have my opinions on the current situation.
Okay.
And then I went on to do my PhD back in UK, tapi on plant viruses. The simple reason plants, they die. You're not too sad,
Okay.
Before that, I was working on human viruses.
Okay.
So that was
when in the UK?
So in the UK, for my PhD, I was in Norwich.
Okay.
Norwich. It's a lovely place, yeah.
Mm.
So that was at an institute for plant science. And so getting into all the molecular techniques, sequencing, all the things they do now for COVID, right?
Right.
So, it was great. And came back, still hardcore researcher, but when I came back, I moved a little bit more and more into working with industry.
Okay.
So something like plant viruses in Malaysia. If you want to do pure research, you can't get funded really. So I started to talk to industry and see what their problems was. Then I started doing diagnostics.
What kind of industry do you engage in for plant virology?
So all plants have viruses.
Okay.
I mean, every plant in the world, there's no plant in the world that has not been shown to be infected by viruses.
Right.
One thing people don't realize. People don't realize that viruses cause a huge amount of damage.
Okay.
So I started with banana, papaya, pineapple. All these industries are plagued by viruses at one time or the other. In Malaysia, rice at one time, but that's pretty well controlled.
The agricultural industry, when you say
agricultural industry.
Okay.
And then on the other side, I was doing regulatory compliance. Okay. So I was looking for Department of Agriculture, help them to hunt people who bring plants in illegally and bring diseases illegally. It's a big problem now.
Okay.
So it's quite exciting, but it brought me to industry and then start looking at things that industry really needed, and then how what I did could be funded. At that time, it was just about how can I get some research funds,
Right.
So it started like that. So, but it went on, and I started getting into the realm of biotech,
Okay.
So I started as a pure science researcher.
Right.
I started moving to biotech. So biotech, by definition, anything that brings value, anything in life sciences that brings value, right?
Right.
Value, anything you can sell.
And that was a big thing too, right? Biotech.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And when I came back after my PhD in Malaysia, it was just starting. And I was lucky that I had seniors in my department who were really at the forefront of trying to build this this biotech idea in Malaysia, and I got co-opted to make the coffee. Seriously,
Okay.
seriously, and I didn't mind because then I could sit in and listen to them, plotting and all that. And they were quite amazing, those early pioneers, who started the idea of Bio Valley. It didn't work out because not for them lack of trying, other factors, and that's how I started getting into it. So then from there, I was dragged into sort of setting up Biotech Centre in UM, and then tiba-tiba I was in MOSTI,
Okay.
and then in MOSTI for 4 years.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I was in MOSTI for 4 years. So I was just sitting happily in UM one day, and then they decided, oh, you have to contribute to nation building now. So second me out to MOSTI, and I was heading the National Biotech for 4 years.
Oh, I see.
Policy work. Yeah.
Right.
So that time, there was the National Biotech Policy. I don't know whether you
No, don't know. Not
Okay.
my field at all.
So National Biotech Policy was huge, a 10-year policy.
Okay. What year was this?
So it ended in 2020. So it was 2009 to 2020.
Okay.
The whole policy was 10 years. And that birthed the Biotechnology Corporation, Biotech Corp.
Okay.
Not
I
how
trust
it's
you. Yeah.
So that's equivalent like MDEC,
Right.
the Biotech version of
So
MDEC.
all the startups and the latest and
so
greatest
it was more like an
innovation.
agency. They were an industry development agency.
Right.
So that time startups didn't exist.
Not the term that wasn't
the term,
there.
the term wasn't there. So they instead coined a term called Binexus companies. These were like small companies which were life science oriented and had some measure of research and development. So they were called Binexus. They got 10-year tax-free status and all those perks.
Was there a lot of companies like that?
So at the end of the program, 200 plus only. Because it's hard tech, so very difficult to spawn.
I would expect it really comes out from research, like university sectors.
Surprisingly not. So that was the problem. At that time, universities are still like very detached from industry.
The industry.
And there's hardly any startups or spin-offs coming out of university, or even now. Even now, I think there's still something wrong with our ecosystem.
And this is a Malaysian problem,
It's a Malaysian problem.
I'm in the UK.
Because it's segmentized, it's like university is university, and
then you go
business
to
is business, and we talk as if it's not, but to me,
in reality it is.
In reality, it is. It's just segmentized, and I don't. It's not policy. It is the society, the actual ecosystem segments itself. People who decide to become academics or researchers, that's what they want to be. So there's almost no leeway for being more than they'll be the best in that, but it's not flexible enough that you can go off and do a spin-off, or you can
so
it's not very conservative.
You would research for the love of the topic,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Malaysians are still in that mode of not young people now. I think my nieces and nephews are completely different. It's like if you work in a bank, that's it. You work in the bank for the next 30 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, right?
But not, you're right, but not for the last 5 years.
Not for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things change completely now, so it's kind of exciting to still be involved.
Yeah.
And try and make it with the young people rather than...
Maybe culturally, the biotech phase was a bit too early, I wonder.
Actually, it's amazing. We were ahead of the game. We planned Bio Valley before Biopolis was even conceived, but we never carried it through all the way. So it's a shame. So I think you were absolutely right. We were before time. We didn't have enough people to support the whole idea, and somehow our country didn't have the profile internationally for people to want to believe that we could do it. Actually, we had it all. We had the resources, we had the talent, we had the infra. Of course, we always have the infra.
Yeah, we like the hardware.
We love the hardware.
Yeah.
And I think 2-3 years after we conceived Bio Valley, then Singapore came and said, we'll have the same thing. We'll call it Biopolis, because they were just a city. But they really took off, they really focused. Focus now. So we like focus, and we wanted to do everything at once.
Yeah.
It was huge. So Bio Valley was scaled down when we had the National Biotech Policy, and we built the national institutes. We created the biotech corp, biotech corporation. We created some companies like Virology, some some government companies which were driving. Then we had all the tax incentives in place. We had policy. We had.
This sounds like MDEC and Magic and the whole.
It's exactly the same. It's a parallel universe.
It's a parallel universe.
It's a parallel universe for bio people. But it was much slower than IT because gestation period for life science is huge, right? So we were in 3 sectors: agriculture, healthcare, and environment. Industry. Sorry. Yeah. So agriculture, healthcare, and industry. So most of the Bionexus companies spun out of agriculture because it's easy, budget, tissue culture, mushroom, and things like that. And some in industry. Most of the FDI came from industry. And there were some really big FDIs, which somehow or other we don't relate to that, to the biotech policy. And the slowest was, unfortunately, healthcare because of the scale of investment was never achieved.
Well, it looks like we're going to be creating our own
vaccine
now.
Okay. So I'm kind of involved in that a little bit, but I think we need to put in a bit more than 40 million ringgit. So,
that does sound a little bit.
So
sounds like just marketing fun.
40 million.
Not quite.
It won't get you past the 100-meter mark even. And this is not a sprint. This is a marathon.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, if the private sector doesn't get on board, we're not going to get there. So
it becomes just headlines again.
Yeah, not for creating something innovative. I mean, we should try starting like India, generic. I mean, India now is way ahead of the game, right? They're the biggest vaccine producer in the world.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they are. In terms of volume.
Right.
So Pfizer produces there, AstraZeneca produces there, because they have good quality control. And they also have their own vaccines being produced as well in the background. So in front, it's all generics. All the vaccines, even though they're the biggest in the world, it's not their vaccines. Right. It's producers, right? The OEM producers.
But you pick up the industry and the skills, right?
And, if you talk about trained people, we train, so part of the biotech policy was also to train people. That was pretty successful.
Well, everybody was signing up for training.
So, we created more than 80 programs for biotechnology, BSc, the bachelor's in biotechnology. Every public and private university had biotech program.
Right.
And the students loved it, and parents loved it,
Okay.
And then we sent the best of our students, we sent abroad. We sent to Purdue, we sent to Cambridge, we sent to MIT, we sent to all the top universities. But then when they came back, there were not enough jobs of that quality, that level of biotech. So biotech ranges from, like I said, a budget all the way to, rocket science,
right.
Science and space and everything.
So we were prepping them up for the rocket science level.
We were.
And we were still talking about budget here.
Yes.
So I assume we lost talent.
We lost a huge amount of talent. Not necessarily abroad, but to other domains. So when smart kids are smart kids, right? So they land on their feet, and many became consultants. I'm really surprised. Every time I go to a consultancy firm, I'll find at least 1 or 2 biotech graduates. All of them are from top universities, from Purdue, from India, from.
But they couldn't pursue it.
They couldn't pursue it here because they were limited. So at the time when they came back, there was mainly research at the universities, which of course was very limited in terms of places. And then the industry, we had a lot of biotech industries which came to Malaysia, but they were really production houses. And in fact, the majority were just marketing houses. They were biotech companies, but this is the marketing. Their finance is in Singapore, and their research is where to be seen, India, and the nearest would be India, maybe, or Singapore, but everything else is back in home country, and research, as far as research is concerned. So biotech grads had to go into production, or had to go into marketing, mini marketing, and it was the job, So it was it's a shame. So a lot of people say, biotech graduates are not matching the industry. They say, but you train for what? You train for high income jobs, right? I don't know how it's in the IT industry, whether there was such a mismatch or the industry was forward of talent.
I think we rode along the wave. So it was at a time when a lot of kids were doing MSc, right? All these degrees. Even if you consider multimedia and things like that, right?
Yeah.
All on the digital space. And then the wave of fintechs and the telcos going to IT, the developers, all industries were going into digitizing.
Yeah.
So it was actually a good match, right? Suddenly we
Yeah.
had a lot of these IT
Talent,
graduates and talent, and then there was a lot of demand.
In fact, now it's not enough.
Yeah, and it's not enough, right?
Yeah.
And they will, unfortunately, they will move to like Singapore or even the US and UK, right, where they could. So we've got almost the opposite problem, right? The industry is there, the demand is there, but we're lacking the really good talented graduates.
The really good ones. Yeah, it's a shame. So, we're hoping that we turn the corner. So we're launching Biotech Policy 2.
Okay. So are you still involved with the biotech world?
I am. I'll never leave that world.
I see. That's your real passion,
Yeah, that kind of passion. Yeah. So, that's my personal passion. And I do on the side. So my research is still all in that space. So
okay.
I still have a research team, research group.
Oh, in the UM?
Yeah.
I see.
One is like, I'll do that for free,
Wow.
Yeah, because that continued even though I was in MOSTI or something. And being in MOSTI was great, so I was studying biotech and, we tried to do a lot of things, some successfully, some not. So, but, we're really hopeful for this coming Biotech Policy 2.
Right.
So we did the impact study, which was an honest review.
Right.
No need to be seen by the public, I suppose,
yeah.
but as long as we learn from it, we had lessons. So hopefully it is launched this year or next year, then we can regroup now. Because to me the talent is all there, the basics are there, and whatever it is, if you talk about biotech, we're perfect. We're a resource-rich country. I don't know how we cannot be successful.
Yeah.
We have all the resources, right? Like all the it's life science, right?
Yeah.
So we do have all the, even if we're going to have disease, also we got lots. Lots of things to work on, right? Yeah, so it's a shame. So that's how I got into it. So 4 years in MOSTI, and then when I came back to UM, of course they didn't allow me to go back straight to the lab. Yeah, so lab is always on the side now.
Okay.
But I went straight into management, and then at that time they said, you've been out there, you know a lot of people in industry, through your days in MOSTI, why don't you take over the commercialization? I said, okay, that's all. Right. So I don't know whether you call it the right experience, but it was
out there. Probably was more than anyone else there.
Maybe I had exposure, and getting it was very exciting for me. I learned, like from scratch everything, patents to
So there was no UMCIC.
No, there was.
Also, there was.
So UM has had a commercialization unit for I think since 1996.
Okay.
Or no, even earlier than that, probably.
Right.
But it focused mainly on patenting and then on licensing. So startup program started in 2009. Actually, the year I left UM to go to the MOSTI, and we had some professors there then who was heading the center who were quite like forward looking in terms of trying to create some semblance of like the startup program. But it was a very conservative model where the university held the majority of the stake in the company, which didn't make it a spin-off at all, startup at all, and made it a subsidiary company.
So the intent was always there.
The intent was there, yeah. So in that first group, there were 6 or 7 companies that were, or startups, supposedly spin-offs, right? We don't call it startups, spin-offs that were created. And then when I joined, we had a relook at how it fit better into like the spin-off and startup environment. So that's why I started. You start. I don't know whether you ever remember. You start because of the low profile of university startups in Malaysia. You don't relate startups to universities in Malaysia at all. And they always talk about entrepreneurship. They always talk about students only. And they talk about undergraduates. And they talk about keusahawanan, and selling something, and they had nothing to do with what they were doing in university.
Correct.
They would just say, you must have the skills of keusahawanan.
Yeah.
But you don't have to relate it to whether you're an engineer or whatever. You just need to be able to sell anything.
Yeah.
So the Hari Keusahawanan was wonderful days, because they would be all these kids selling curry puffs and, trying to do their business plan based on.
And yet they were actually just, sitting on all
Still
this
the
potential,
gold,
on gold, yeah.
potential. So even now, I think student entrepreneurship, some universities have pushed much further than us now. I think private universities, the students seem to be more free to do it. Universities like UM, again, it's no fault of policy or the university. It's again the mindset of students. Like UM students, conservative, very conservative.
Why is that?
They work so hard to get into UM. They're not going to throw it into some entrepreneurship program. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, but I'm kidding only in the smallest. Slightly kidding. But it's true. It's true. It's mindset. It's a difficult university to get in.
Yes, it is.
You need straight A's, and once you get there, your parents' expectation of you is that you're going to come out to be the best engineer, the best lawyer, the best business school person. And so when we used to run entrepreneur programs, like when Magic came out with entrepreneur programs, very few of our students would. Sometimes we were given, because I made some good friends.
Very few students would actually want to participate.
Yeah. So, there was one program, we were given, like, 200 places to do this wonderful program. I can't remember, it was with Magic or whatever. And in the end, we had to call up friends from UniKL, Sunway.
Come fill up this way.
And they're like, oh, can we have oh no, you can't have that many places. And, in terms of UM students, we had to coax them. And we were like, oh, we're busy, we got assignments. And lecturers were the same. Oh, students can't do that. They have,
I see.
So we had to think of a different way. Right? I think even now we're trying to look for so now we're encouraging more technopreneurs based on your own. We've been quite successful with the IT school. The students there are quite, now they've loosened up a bit.
But are they more engaged with the industry now compared to when you first joined?
Yeah, some schools. Like I said, the IT school is a good example. Maybe it's your industry anyway, but and maybe because they're the youngest of our faculties, and maybe their faculty is younger.
So they're more open in terms of.
So they started a program like industry getting involved in research projects from year one. They had this program called IPI, Industry Practical, some initiative or something, where students start working with industry partners from year one, thinking about problem statements and learning skills. And in the second year, they develop the project, and in the third year, they actually run the project with their industry mentors who has been with them all the way. And that was amazing. I think I saw some really fantastic projects come out of that. Not necessarily entrepreneurial, but certainly very problem-solving kind of.
But I was thinking perhaps it's also difficult to be entrepreneurial in some of those faculties, right? I mean, engineering, for example.
Yeah.
You're not suddenly going to go out there and do a startup on drilling bits, whatever lah, again.
Yeah.
Or even in the biotech and
so
even medicine.
So the cohort that we were missing out was there were no programs on entrepreneurship for graduate students. So if you look at Stanford, you look at MIT, not undergraduates, they still do some startups if you're within Bill Gates or something. But most of their tech startups are by graduate students. Postgrads, right? After their PhDs and stuff. And we didn't look at this cohort at all for a long time.
So they would have ended up as a deep research PhD and stay in there.
That's why they did PhD. A lot of them had this attitude, well, if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wouldn't have done this 6 years blip PhD. After the end of my PhD, I want to be tetap dan berpension pensyarah di universiti.
A real academician.
I mean, again, itulah the mindset of the people who select to be researchers. So, and I think it's for lack of having like icons, like students who have gone in, come out and become entrepreneurs and then shouted, I did my PhD and I became an entrepreneur. We don't have that many
examples
to shout. In the US, it's that, when students, the moment they come in, they think about this already.
In fact, it's probably going in to to be very specific about picking up something,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's
To go to the market after,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely. If you're in MIT, definitely, more important than the PhD is your spin-off, right?
Yes.
And they do it from day one. They're really aware,
Mm.
and I spoke to my contemporaries like in these universities, and they said like that, oh, it's like that, we never do, the professors never do spin-offs. But I have shares in 10 spin-offs and my students spin-offs. I 1%, 10%. And one of them recently said to me, oh, my students' spin-off just got acquired, for $100 million US, and my 1% share in their company. Yeah. And you know what, Yasmin, she said, and they were my worst students. They were not even my good students. So the good students will end up being academics.
So then it becomes an incentive structure in itself, right? For them to...
Because they can see this happening. But we don't see that link in Malaysia. I mean, there are entrepreneurs, of course, most of our entrepreneurs graduate from somewhere, right? But they don't link their entrepreneurship with their time in university, or they didn't start in university. They started even before. I think that's still not there yet. Even though, I mean, all the agencies have programs with university, but it seems like they have to. I still think there's an element of the university students have to go out and be an entrepreneur. Not that the university itself
becomes the platform to commercialize.
So, I think many universities try. I mean, we try. We have student more. Some measures are up and down. But again, it's not yet sort of buzzing. It may be better in private universities anyway.
I've dealt with quite a few of them, like HELP and INTI and APU.
I mean, like Sunway has a good accelerator now, like Sunway Islands. Right? But again, I think it's quite small. I don't know whether it's pervasive through the whole of Sunway or it's just that they have,
they've got a physical lab.
Physical lab.
Start with that.
They've got their own venture fund, which is really nice. And they got a big sort of living lab to play with at Sunway City. So I think they got a nice mini model. But whether the culture is pervasive within their students, I'm not quite sure. I mean, NUS has managed in some way to build that culture amongst the students. They have, like when Block 71, the famous Block 71. So I went there, so I really wanted to find out who were in there, But and they were all students, really. I mean, it was really populated by Singapore students. I did look at how many of them were really doing things from their own work. So again, it was not necessarily from what they were doing in university, but the university was really facilitative. No matter what their idea was, they would have to build on it. So they got a lot of help from the university. And of course, Singapore is buzzing, So exposure. So there are so many international startups there, and what attracted them there is basically some sort of dynamic funding ecosystem. But even when I was there, they didn't have the deep tech startups, not so much from the university. So when I first started going down to Singapore, because we did start with them a lot, with their NS Enterprise, and when we started in, I think, 2017, they didn't even have their deep tech startup program yet. That means to say there were very few startups which actually originated from research.
Yeah, there was a lot of imported technology and startups.
A lot. And then the startup in Block 71 was student-driven, and they were idea-driven, really, not research-driven. So there were a lot of cool ideas about this transport, solutions to people's problems. And students were very creative on that. But it didn't stem from their research. So they started about 2019, their first serious deep tech program. But they moved very fast.
I guess the environment that is way ahead in that respect is China. Right? When you go to the cluster of universities in Shanghai and all that, it's amazing how pretty much everybody's a PhD student who's left, and then all these companies
So that's the thing. So innovative companies now. We don't have clusters.
Yeah, somehow, I mean, we try to artificially do it lah, but it doesn't quite.
I mean, like they
Yeah,
talk
like-
now, like, how they tried to do like the drone cluster, for instance. It was nice. I mean, we were hopeful for the robotics cluster.
Right.
But people just seem to just gravitate to wherever they found the cheapest accommodation. I don't know.
Yeah.
People didn't see the value here of
Mm.
staying close to your competition and exchanging ideas.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess the closer we had was like Multimedia and Cyberjaya.
Yeah,
lah,
Cyberjaya
right?
lah,
Cyberjaya was
supposed
supposed
to
to
be-
be the thing, but not quite. Now, even so, I just met with TPM.
But it's very diverse kind of companies. There's no what is it like? Is it cybersecurity that's Cyberjaya, or is it
There isn't that
data
lah.
center,
Yeah.
or I mean, cluster of
Yeah.
okay, they're all IT, but
From a industry standpoint, it ended up being a lot of call centers, right? So a lot of the Shells and the Ericssons,
Yeah.
they would
Yeah,
have
call
call centers there.
that was successful.
Yeah, right. Until recently, everybody goes back to India, right? But yeah, so from a technology per se, not quite lah.
But even other industries, like, we were hoping that even like life sciences, diagnostics. So we just thought about how much diagnostics we had. The next thing we knew, Singapore had a diagnostics accelerator. Huge, 200,000 square foot warehouse, and they opened it to the world.
Right.
And people just flocked in.
Just
Why?
very
Because
big,
they offered money. So they even offered us, this is interesting. We participated in Innovate Singapore for 3 years running on invitation of NUS, and they gave us 40 free tickets every year and free booth. They were really like very nice big brother. So we brought all our startups there, and every time they get offered, Singapore will fund companies to go there. And they said you can keep, we just need 1/3 to be held by a resident. It doesn't even have to be a citizen. By a resident of Singapore, and we'll give you this funding. And you just come in, we'll give you space, funding. And that's why Singapore is so full.
Yeah.
But amazingly, every year I would bring, 20, 25 startups from, not just from all the start family.
Yeah.
Not a single taker.
Wow. They're kind of loyal in that respect. Or why not?
I think it's not just loyalty, there's confidence, maybe, or not risk taking. They were happy under our little umbrella of the university.
To be back here and.
Because I told my companies, we have no problem if you want to go to Singapore, you want to scale in Singapore like Grab, because the money is there. They're very generous. And
you can always return, right?
It's not like you have to give up your citizenship.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? But, and ours were all, of course, deep tech startups. In other words, they had to have products.
So it's not like we don't have the products and the deep tech.
No, it was fantastic, the amount of interest in our products that those companies had. But they all said, you need to go the extra mile. You need to do the product development, the industrial product development. And then Singapore government, they have all these funds, and they say, we can fund it. They straight away come in and say, we can fund it. I was sitting once with Keppel. Keppel is the biggest developer, and with one of my researchers who was doing some amazing waste power generation from all this energy that's been shot out of air conditioning. He can capture it.
Pipes and all that.
You can capture it, and you can convert it to enough energy to power your car park. All the lights and the exhaust in your car park. So everything is closed circle. But Keppel wanted to see a real on-building concept.
And you would even fund for to come up with your MVP, right?
Was sitting with us and says, I will fund it, And my researcher was like, I have to leave KL, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, but it was a learning experience for me. So during that time, I was also still struggling how to persuade researchers to let go, to work with business partners.
Right.
It's very hard. They were very interested in, if you give me more money for research, I can get the data for you. So yeah, it's we haven't got enough entrepreneurial people on campus. But maybe the system doesn't allow for it, or I'm not quite sure. I mean, we give all the incentives. So where's the problem? Is it Malaysians in general or very conservative?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Because I see enough in the startup world outside, right? I'm not outside. I mean, beyond the universities, right? Out here, there's many of them.
I'm sure they die for those opportunities.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's why every time you run, every time somebody runs an accelerator program, it's full. There's always okay. Like sometimes you see the same faces, but there is always new blood coming in.
Do you see people from universities?
Hardly.
Hardly. They're so talented.
It's something that I don't know whether it's anecdotal, but it's almost you do the degree as a backup in case you need to get a job. Okay, now you go do your entrepreneurial thing.
Okay.
Right? But as you say, it's not going to university to pick up the knowledge and therefore to build something, right? Yeah. But it's actually maybe apart from the IT degrees, right? The IT degrees, you learn how to code and all that, so that then you can develop. But for the others, it's not. It's a backup, It's separate,
Separate. I think we only had one or two students. Of course, our famous student chemist who then developed her own vaccine business.
Oh, okay.
It was fantastic because she went on to be a blockbuster student entrepreneur, so she had turnover of millions.
Right.
So it was in addition to her very good product which she developed herself as a chemist.
While she was within the university,
while she was a student, she was very entrepreneurial. So she did digital marketing. But what I found out from her and a few other student entrepreneurs that I worked with was that they all had family who were entrepreneurs.
Right. Yeah.
So they had that bit of
business was in the blood,
lack of fear of doing something which they didn't go to university for, and the parents will support it. So I can guarantee you that if you had to ask permission from mom and dad whether they could do entrepreneurship, mom and dad would say no. Yeah. I send you to university.
Get a good job.
Not to jual barang-barang.
Yeah.
Take risk, have no gaji for months or years.
I think a lot of them is either out of no choice, you have to, right? Or you're right. So far, so many of the entrepreneurs and the startup people that I speak to always come from a family where there is business out there, right? Whether it's the grandparents or the direct parents or there's always something.
They get excited
there, right?
by something.
Yeah. On the flip side, a lot of the career students or people who work 9-to-5 jobs always came from parents who did a 9-to-5 job, right? So yes, a very good MNC, a very good, large companies, and you go into corporate because your parents were, right?
So that's what I was saying, because we're still very much a family-oriented society, that if you want the next generation of students to be entrepreneurs, you got to work on the parents, you got to work on the parents, parents' expectations, careers, show them different career path that their children could take.
I mean, you look at and it's nothing. I was going to say nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is, right? The number of lawyers that who had lawyers and judges as parents, or doctors you know,
it's like generations.
Right? Generations, It's almost like a career generations, right?
Generations. So we're still like that now.
Yeah.
So it is a society, and university is a representation of the family. We protect the institution. Right. We came here to do this, so we'll make sure you come out the best of this. So we're also trying to be a lot more flexible. I mean, like my current VC, so he's entrepreneur himself.
Okay.
He's a startup. So he put up last year in his first year in office. He said, I'm going to fund 50 students.
Was it a culture shock for him to find the culture in UM?
Oh, but he's from UM.
Right.
So he wanted to change it.
Right.
So he wanted to fund student entrepreneurship. So if we don't fund it, maybe that's the reason. But again, the excitement is not there. We see announced a new fund for student entrepreneurs, and it was like, there's no rush to apply for it. There's hardly any questions on it.
Okay.
So it's like, give it up, but in between exams. Credit that.
Right. So this it all falls back to academic side, right?
Academic side, yeah.
Interesting.
So, I mean, when Chen tries, entrepreneurship is a compulsory module. You have to pass entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But
then it becomes a subject to ace, lah.
It's a subject to ace. You can say, I got an A in entrepreneurship, therefore I can be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So we tried to add on. So we have our entrepreneur program post to credit and try and select some. But we have a whole different team doing that. So I haven't caught up with them recently after the recent news.
Yeah.
So we went on to try and grow our startup amongst the researchers.
This was when you were at UMCIC, lah.
UMCIC, and then after that, I changed jobs. I became no night chancellor, industry and community engagement. But to me, it was still still an umbrella for that initiative that we're doing in startups, and trying to change the whole dynamics. So we started the Accelerator later on, the Lean Startup Program. I mean, some other universities were pretty successful. UPM, I think, managed to spin up.
Oh, really? Not aware.
Where again? I mean, this is the whole point.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about university startups, So my UStart was short. We did 3 years of UStart, which actually got quite attraction, a little bit of visibility, but our best supporter and something that really triggered was not from Malaysia, from Indonesia. So in the first year they came to join us for UStart. We called the top universities, and then ITB Bandung.
Okay.
This is the Ivy League Indonesian universities. Will be elitist. So we said we'll start with the best universities with cultural Hong Kong,
right?
For NUS, and so we thought that if the best worked, then everybody else will follow suit. Right? But when UI first came, University of Indonesia, ITB has always been entrepreneur. Institute Technology Bandung.
Okay.
Always had lots of startups there. They've got a lot of lecturers who went to the US to do it.
I see.
They brought culture back.
Okay.
But UI was like conservative. So first year when they came, they had 2-3 very agriculture-based startups. It was amazing. 3 years later, they had like 100 startups in UI.
Transformed,
They transformed. They said, and I take some credit for, in a sense, just inspiring them. Yeah. So the Tech Transfer office came to our events, in Singapore and in KL, and then they said, we got to do something different.
Right.
Because Indonesia, when they decide to do it.
So you spurred it for them.
Yeah,
and then they overtook.
We still end up with 10 a year, and they've got like 100 a year, because they're so big. Yeah.
So what did they do differently?
I don't know, I mean, they did get a lot of industries interested. So that again is a problem with us here. So that I find it very hard to find real industry, even small industries, interested in partnering with our startups to move forward. So that's why that's okay. My and this is a very biased experience. So, bigger companies, they will help you to a certain extent. So the best traction we've got is actually from multinationals who will try and give you some POCs, some grants to help you. We do some nice works with some Gaudi, but smaller companies, they don't want to risk anything. So they want, always when they come to us, they want a product ready.
I see.
Ready.
Not to co-develop with the university.
Especially not other than IT. If we are providing them a solution, that's okay. But if we say we've developed this product, would you like to co-develop with us?
Up to the commercialization stage, they want it ready. Then
they want it TRL 9. We come in at the most 6 or 7 at the most.
Sorry, what is?
Okay, so you put on your TRL. technology readiness levels. This was
Okay.
invented by NASA.
Right.
So it's to gauge the readiness of a technology to go to market.
Okay.
So research is 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Then 4, 5, 6 is development stage, which
Okay.
ends up with a prototype, at least a prototype.
Right.
And then the 7, 8, 9 is a commercial stage. That
I
means
see.
you're developing market-ready products.
Mm.
The minimum viable product is 7,
Okay.
8, 9, 10, then commercialization. 10 is full commercialization.
Right.
So engineering products are all gauged like that.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
because it's stages of development of the product. So hard tech is all like that. So,
Okay.
but companies they want 9, 10 ready market on the shelf. Not only that, they want it. Somebody else must have used it first.
Proven track record too.
Proven track record. But we said if you want an innovative product, if you want to be first in market,
We have to be
you
first
have
in
to be
market.
first in market.
Yeah.
How do you be first in market and yet somebody else has
Yeah.
tried it?
Yeah. But is that also a conservative mentality of Malaysian businesses too?
Yes, completely. they want a ready product. So they rather spend a bit more. And it's not just small companies, large companies. I mean, I had a really large company. The CEO himself said, it's not that we don't want the product, but he said, I can't take the risk. I have to deliver to my customers the product that will work.
Yeah.
And not some fail. So can you guarantee that? Of course I can't guarantee that.
I guess the only industry I know that does their own big R&D is like the pharmaceuticals, right? So,
yeah. So pharmaceuticals, we don't see the failures though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But that's where the billions go, right?
Yeah,
With
that's
all
right. So the billions go to fund the failures, right? Because the actual development cost, if everything works, it's not very expensive, to be honest.
Yeah.
But they have to fund 100 to get 1.
Yeah. So we only need 40 million, so that's okay.
Yes.
We do a one of one.
We know how to choose. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with 40 million. Although the vaccines have been worked on for some years. I mean, if you take the COVID one aside, like the malaria, people will be working.
Dengue
But still, it's a long way. So, UM has a drug company, which nobody knows about, Pharmology, and we are collaborating with actually the biggest drug discovery company in India called Origin Discoveries, which is owned by Reddy Laboratories, which is the biggest generic producer in India. Nobody knows about this collaboration. But we collaborate in a space called drug leads. So drug leads is not a drug, but it's a compound that's been extracted from somewhere, which may be a lead to a drug.
Oh, I see.
Say if you're working on dengue, so a drug company, to make sure that they get the cure for dengue, they will have to hedge their bets on 100 leads. Okay, but to find 100 leads is a task itself. It takes 5 to 10 years to find the leads. So the Origin Discoveries is a company that looks for leads. We partnered with them with our company is called Pharmology. And it's a 10-year collaboration. And the idea is to look for leads from natural compounds that UM has worked on. It's been really successful. So what happened is we are not involved in the drug development. We just find the leads, we sell it to big
companies like that, right?
And pharma will just buy all these. And what they do with it is beyond us, whether it's developed into the actual drug or repurposed to something else. Or not used at all, it's up to them.
So when we say we're producing our own vaccines, it is going end to end, from leads all the way to the vaccine.
Vaccines and therapeutics will be different, but so vaccines in a traditional way for most bacterial disease is easy, but the targets that they've chosen are quite difficult. I mean, like malaria, malaria has been the scourge of vaccine developers, so that's a difficult choice. So we're quite surprised. So we have a lot of other candidates for. The thing about malaria is it's a very important disease. It's nice to be working on it. But I wish we put some serious money, or we get industry involved in it somehow. I mean, the successes like in India, a lot of it is driven by industry.
The industry. Yeah.
They put the money in.
Hmm.
So, maybe it's leads for vaccines would be more realistic to call it leads for vaccines. So then hopefully, if it's really exciting, then a big pharma will come and take it. Take it
all the way to 9.
Yeah. Look it up. It was first coined by some NASA people.
Oh, okay.
About technology.
I mean, for us, it's always just the MVP, right? But we don't have the stages in between.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's stages of innovation. But it's kind of I wish we had more innovative industries to really encourage people, or create a feeling that your innovation will be used somewhere. I think there's a lack of confidence in the part of researchers, and then lack of trust on the part of the industry that we can deliver. We've had some good. I think was it Magic? I think it was Magic. So I got involved in Magic a little bit. I was on the board for a few years.
Okay.
Yeah. During ashram stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Then they were also trying to do this matching between industries. So they had, and I thought it was a brilliant idea, but I think it never went through for I don't know what reasons. And we participated. I mean, we created some opportunities similar to that, but it was really getting the big companies or even the medium-sized companies to put up problems to be solved by startups, and then to award them at least a POC contract, not necessarily build contract.
Yeah,
right? At least give them enough funding to be able to demonstrate the project. I don't know what you call it in the industry. Do you have something similar?
I guess a POC lah.
Like a POC. POC. We did one with EPF, our chatbot. I think you've met our chatbot company.
I think you did. Introduce. I'm trying to remember.
We've got Felix. They do the multilingual chatbots. AI-driven chatbots. Which can learn faster than Watson.
Okay.
Apparently.
Why they know?
So they spin off. They spun off their own company. These 3 young guys, Asno, Hairul, and Ram. Ram got stolen by AirAsia to join AirAsia's data team.
I see.
They're all AI people.
Right.
And they're still growing. I mean, so they were very lucky. We at that time had an adjunct CEOs as professors, and one of them was Dr. Sharon.
I see.
EPF. And at that time he said, we're looking for something like that, but ours is a big contract.
Right.
And we all look at him and like, will you give us a contract? Of course not. You have to tender like everybody else. And who was the competition?
The big established guys lah.
Big guys lah. So I remember speaking to him and there's no way we can even come close. We got like 3 guys.
Yeah.
No office. And no back room, support. How can we find that? So he said, never mind, you just do it. And then he just created a POC entry level class. And in that POC competition, UM won the first.
Oh, nice.
So it was awarded. So of course they also gave it to them 3, which were the big guys. And they created a product, and the product was incredible, they said. But
that's an interesting approach.
But we still couldn't bid for the big contract because the big contract required that.
Stability, history, right?
Credit, everything, man.
I mean,
and at least a worker, they didn't even have a worker, which is a bit like presumptuous to even want to bid. But I was forever grateful because after that, they could put that in. The first contract was EPF.
Yeah, correct.
And it's working model.
Got your groundbreaker.
Sure, after that, we acquired Hong Kong, KP, Petronas. With small chatbot projects, but they are busy. They've managed to hire this team, and they're looking to grow. Except now they have to decide how to do. So that's all it takes, right?
Yeah.
Then they could sell that easily. Now they've got track record.
The challenge there is that the environment that drove them to success is so unique, right? You have to have the CEO there and then support.
Yeah, it was just fortunate.
Yeah, correct.
And it was with that kind of CEO who was brave enough to create that kind of program.
And to expect that to suddenly now become commonplace is difficult.
So I think Magic tried to do that. So they got all this put it up, and then a lot of the startups bid for it, and the winner is supposed to get a POC contract. But I think the company still balked at giving that contract. Because they said if they're public listed, they're shareholders. They didn't have that model, of POC, right?
That's right.
POC.
Because it is difficult enough for large companies, right, to justify their budget. And how do you justify budgets? And really, it's about return on investment. So you want to do a POC with kind of iffy ROI, and it's not like you have unlimited resources, right? You've got R1 million, and I've got these 3 projects, and these 3 are very clear, and I've got, So unfortunately, we don't have that flexibility or freedom yet, lah. And it has to come from the top to say, hey, you know what? I will have my $1 million, $2 million on riskier, not so much.
The point is that almost none of these companies have development budget. Budget for development. Maybe they have research budget. And then they have for the procurement budget. But the development budget, I've not seen many companies who come to me and say, no Petronas got Petronas Innovation, all the big companies now supposed to do. And Petronas now recently launched their innovation platform, and they took 3 of our technologies. So again, I'm really happy with that. That's POC. And Traga, I think, POC in Hong Kong. Hong Kong also. Hong Kong came on board with another POC chatbot. They did the Islamic fintech chatbot. Who can speak, who can understand Kelantan language.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, apparently you can decipher
the dialects.
They've done really nicely. But it stops there. Procurement officers, I've spoken to so many, and I sympathize with them. They say, I don't care what my boss say, I have to buy local innovation. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, I'm the one. My head is going to roll, if it doesn't work.
And they are in that structure, So let's go to your latest adventure then. This is hot off the press, lah.
Hot off the press. So actually, I have not announced it yet.
Okay, well, you can announce it here.
So anyway, I've taken the job as CEO of UMCapital Berhad now. So UMCapital Berhad is a subsidiary of UM. So before this is the equity holding company. So this was the company that held the equity in our startups. Before this. But before we just held equity.
Right.
But now we want to do more. We want to invest and we want to grow our companies.
Invest in startups still within UM, or now you're going to go outside?
So it has to be linked to UM in some way. So even if it's not run by UM, it has to have a presence in UM, it has to have some link. So at this stage, it has to have that. And the idea is to just really get the flow out of UM health technologies and something, and then to bridge this little gap, this development gap. So we really want to get into a more active space, not just hold equity, but to really
be a VC, lah.
I didn't want to say that, but eventually, I think it's an important concept, and loads of other universities, top universities, all have VCs, and it can be run by anybody. You got student VCs now coming out of universities for the same reason that you need this gap funding. So if we are always to depend on Cradle or VC, I mean, how many early stage VCs do we have? 2? Maybe?
I mean the government ones, lah.
2 government ones, but non-government. I don't think Malaysian VCs. I mean now, startups all this come up. But all those I've talked to, they're only suitable for IT because their ROI is 3 years.
So how would the journey now be different for a new startup out in UM then, with UM Capital in the picture?
So now UMCapital wants to grow to not just be equity holder, so we want to give more support. So my mandate is really to grow my team, so to have we call it the startup managers.
But is it going to be a certain industry specific, or how are you going to manage that?
So you have to be niche. Right now, our niche is very broad and not ideal to have just 1 or 2 people like that. My ideal model is, of course, to have facilitation in every domain that we decide to invest in, right?
Mm.
But right now we're investing in 3 major domains that we're focusing. Of course, health, the 3 that we have the strongest in terms of long-term support.
Mm-hmm.
And it's research where we have track record. So our track record may not be in sales, but it's certainly in research support. So if you're talking about investing in a technology where there's going to be a pipeline of new technologies coming out, that's what is our selling point, right?
Yeah.
So if we say diagnostic healthcare for right now, one of my products is for the food industry.
Okay.
So they're using a biosensor. Literally, put in there you can see whether your food got 4 different bacteria just by using on-site sensor testing. Very simple. But they have next generation with lateral flow, next generation with the simple dipstick, next generation. So the research is going on. They're very excited about that. So, we're touting that kind of pipeline as our selling point. So we're doing healthcare, we're doing, so including therapeutics and vaccines, whatever you want to develop. We're looking at clean tech, green tech.
Green tech, of course. Everybody's talking ESG right now. Yeah.
So both very hard tech, things like hydrogen, things like capacitors, batteries, because that's our core research strength. I mean, we're a top university in engineering.
Yeah.
For many things, but because we've got hydrogen technology, we've got biohydrogen, we've got hydrogen from thin air, hydrogen conversion technology. The hydrogen from water.
So it's almost like the industry environment has finally caught up to UM's research.
Yeah, so the research has been always cutting edge. We publish the LED project in UM is world class. I mean, we're the only place in Southeast Asia that can make this blue light wafers, which is the top end wafer. So we work with some of the semiconductor companies in the north, but multinational companies. We only have one non-multinational. So the rest are multinational. So they support. They give us almost $400 million worth of equipment. And they're very happy with the level of work. So that kind of research collaboration with big companies, we do a lot.
So it's healthcare, environment,
healthcare, and environment, and healthcare, clean tech.
Clean tech, sorry.
Or green tech.
Right.
And then environment and agriculture.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So basically that everything else falls into the third area. So the green tech, I think, is one of the best sectors because that's cross-cutting, whether you're talking about bioconversion or waste treatment or new materials. Actually, there's so much in UN. I'm just shocked that nobody wants. So, I mean, the telling thing is we don't know how to sell what we have, right? Because the level of products that we have are really still early stage. So researchers, when you ask them to go and talk about their research, it's really frustrating for me. So I tell them, talk as if you're going to talk to your son or daughter. But it's
too technical.
Yeah, they talk about science. So it's really hard to get them
to dumb it down for the people who's
what I need, I need a lot of people in my team who can translate.
Right.
And that's why I don't have
from the technology to translate, and also
in a more sensible sense.
Are they still having a challenge to see it from a commercial standpoint?
Yeah. There's no interest in it. They can do it. They can do the figures. $10 billion market. If we have 0.1%, we have 100 million. That kind of figures.
What about bringing in if that entrepreneurial lens is missing, then maybe that's something you have to import from outside, right? Yes.
So the idea UMCB now, we provide an entrepreneurial team. And it's an entrepreneurial support team who can at least prepare the intermediate language to present to industry in that sense. Because otherwise this gap is really huge. So for instance, now we have this whole suite of companies. So our most recent Accelerator started a year ago. We launched it at Magic actually. So we started with 35 projects.
Right.
and put them through a lean startup program. So they had to do market survey, market validation,
do the whole canvas lah.
do the whole canvas. They got really excited. But of course, at the end of it, after 1 year, only 5 graduated.
Yeah.
And the rest are
Out of 100.
the rest are still in process, and some have U-turned completely.
Let me go back to the research.
Fair enough, it's just not for them,
Yeah.
Even though we have pre-screened the projects are all potentially commercializable. This is the people cannot follow it through, so there's no point. But the 5 that's coming out is really exciting. So 3 are already funded by Cradle,
Right.
so they got the Ignite one.
Nice.
3 got Ignite one, and the other 2 are hoping to get some other funding. Yeah, so we're very happy with Cradle. So Cradle came on board with us. Adam was a guy from the beginning, from the first introduction. So we got him to help coach, and we took it on. And finally, they did take up 3, and then 2 Patronus Innovations looked at it and said, "Okay, we'll bring them on board." So,
okay.
Yeah, so but it's hard work. The problem is still researcher driven. So now we want them to partner with. So where are the people? As my new boss said, you want to come to the point where when you come up with Accelerator program like this, people are rushing to grab
whatever's coming out from there.
This is what happens if you go to Caltech and whatever comes up, people are just so many people waiting.
So is that
we still don't know where to sell.
Well, it's early days. You just started this.
And you're right, if we have to focus on a domain. Otherwise, it's too broad.
It's too broad, right?
Too broad, you don't know what to say. You cannot have just one here, one there.
Yeah. So at least they know that, well, if it's one of these 3.
The very neat one was we just spun off. They just created their own company now. It's this, water pipes, right?
Okay.
Water pipes. We have water pipes anyway, right? Even though sometimes we don't have water. And what's the common thing about water? We don't want it to stop, right? So water is flowing all the time.
Yeah.
Every time. 24 hours a day, 365 days. Water has energy. But we just drink it. All the energy is wasted. So they've created this new technology. It's not entirely new. They have 1 or 2 competitors, but they have a very unique patented. So they fix this onto the water pipe. So you just take a section off the small water pipe and you fix this, and it's a hydropower station.
A mini
hydropower station, and you can get from a tiny one, and then you can get X number of kilowatts, enough to power, your water filtration system, your houses nearby. And they have a model where if you put enough of it, if you put in parallel, you can even have enough to feed into the grid. Yeah.
So Tenaga should be interested in tech like that.
At the moment, the water companies are looking at it. So we've got some POCs already.
Like the Shabasas of the world.
Yeah, the Shabasas of the world. We started with Tringali for some places. The one that actually...
Well, they've got the Kenyi Dam and lots of rivers. But this is nothing to do with the rivers. This is just...
So hydro rivers, there's a lot of infrastructure that you need to build. If you want to build a new dam, it's huge infrastructure cost. This one, nothing. The infrastructure is there. You just plug and play.
Just replace.
Yeah, you take a section of the pipe, play. But the system is neat that if you have to service or repair, you don't have to stop the water flow at all. In the model that's being used in America or in Japan, you have to stop the whole system. Oh, it's really huge. It's a really neat little system. Yeah, and they're looking for investors. So a few people look at it, got really excited. So some Petronas also looked at it and got excited, except they're not in the water business, but you could put it.
It's in the energy business.
Yeah, the energy business. All companies now pivoting, right?
That's right.
Energy. But there's so much of it everywhere in the world. Water pipes are universal.
Yeah. And naturally powered, right?
Naturally powered. So they were saying that just for KL, if they put it all over KL, and each one becomes a car charging station.
Yeah. Right.
So then you finally have clean electricity for your car, electric car.
Yeah.
Not using coal-fired electricity. Right now, all these people with electric cars, I don't know whether you have them.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I've got a hybrid lah. So it's worth. it's worse, right? Burn the petrochemical and use carbon-powered electricity.
Carbon-powered electricity, exactly. You know,
coal
not so
powered,
keen at all. So, you know, this would be nice, you know. I mean, like, you know, just for that, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if they can eventually turn this into, you know, like how the solar panels for residentials now are becoming thing, right?
Very, very common.
So maybe this new water pipe thing,
yeah,
you know?
even at your whole house, maybe, it's enough.
Yeah.
This water flow.
At least to run some, like you say, some
garden
charging
lights,
or something,
or, you know, whatever,
And at least this work at night.
So everything has potential. Like the other researcher who does also his waste energy. So this is from cooling towers. Cooling towers burn out huge amounts of heat. And
I mean, if you go to like KLCC, right, they've got the whole building.
So he just made this thing that can cap it and just have a turbine attached to it and a battery, and you can power literally all the public spaces in the building.
Wow.
Yeah.
So companies like that is what you will be investing in.
Yeah, we're looking at that kind of hard tech with really strong research. So, I mean, we know there's interest. I mean, 6 months ago, just before I retired, we had a call, even from Singapore. It was from Mitsubishi Heavy Technologies.
Okay.
Which is huge, right?
Yeah.
This is people who make the big ships and everything. And they called from Singapore and they said, our CEO wants to come down to Malaysia. What CEO? Oh, from Japan. The CEO and the CIO.
Oh, the CEO of Mitsubishi.
I said, why? Oh, we read some papers that you guys published, and we want to see it.
Nice.
I said, oh my god, okay. So they actually read the scientific papers, and they saw the potential.
Wow.
So they picked out, and they knew everything about the authors. More than I knew. And
Right.
who the heck? Which person?
They probably got the job offer letters ready.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, then they came down and they spent a whole day. They came down just Japan, came in the morning, spent time with the researchers, balik.
Wow.
Datang balik.
Wow.
Interview.
That's commitment, right?
Yeah,
This is serious, lah.
serious. And we've had a few like that, like our orthotics company, their competitor actually came down, but we were very innocent that time. Can we take a sample back? Buggy and travel.
Oh no.
Yeah. And this is from a Finnish orthotics company. That now is one of my most successful spin-offs, their orthotics company.
Okay.
Now they're into their second generation to do bionics. And they managed to get NTIS.
Okay.
It was one of two companies that got NTIS. The other company that got NTIS was a company that worked with MOSTI for a short while, Connected Healthcare.
Oh, okay. Don't know. What's that? It's like a software?
So they like Fitbit.
Okay.
But AI enabled.
I see.
Yeah. So the back end is all the AI people again, probably in the robotics.
So it tracks your healthcare lifestyle and all that.
But they do the analytics, the deep analytics as well. Okay. And then after that, they also link together with the healthcare package. Because we have a hospital. So I think they did for your staff. Not as research.
I see.
So the time they were a spin-off and they were selling health packages. Yeah. So they are looking. They had an offer for buyout from one of the listed companies before the MCO.
Oh,
and
things kind of stalled.
Stalled.
But well, hopefully things open again.
So anyway, so I'm starting with stuff of one.
So your second career?
Second career is to finish what I started, really, because the time when I was head of commercialization, we were just trying to change a lot of things. So now I think we got to a point where we've got our accelerator moving, we've got an incubator, we're now repurposing another building to be another accelerator, incubator, the building next to that.
So you're going to work very closely with UMCIC still, then?
Oh yeah, my office is there.
Okay, so you're going
next
back.
door to the director.
Okay.
So you have to work closely.
Yeah. Because they're almost like the pipeline for you, right?
Absolutely. And then, they have to feel the buzz. They have to feel the industry coming in. So to me, researchers, they just need a little bit of encouragement. They don't want much. They're not looking to be rich. But they want to see their baby.
You don't want to say that too loudly, right? The valuation. Yes, they do want to be.
Someone told me, this is the guys in Oxford, because they're extremely successful with commercialization. And they said the day that they were successful in getting researchers interested was when one of their colleagues who had made it, in the startup world, came back driving his yellow Ferrari onto campus, and everybody took notice and signed up. Yeah. I suppose, they might say they're not interested in money, but I'm sure it helps.
I'm sure. At least it helps getting to work more comfortably.
Yeah. But I've been tasked to say, go look for some really successful university entrepreneurs. Not many, there's one or two.
Well, hopefully this new venture of UM's and yours leads to more successful entrepreneurs.
So, when we open our opportunity to invent, put money into a venture fund, why not? I hope investors out there are taking note. Because you got to be in a little bit for the long run. But the way it goes, the way that funding goes, I think if we talk about ROI for early stage, it's not like before, right? That you need to have a product before you have an ROI. I mean, just do unicorn stuff.
There's a spec to go to market, right? So why not start our investments?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So hopefully maybe in next year you come back.
When I got some exciting things, I will do the part 2
of this.
Update. But you guys gotta come to UM to reintroduce you to.
For sure.
I still have to give you all those names for the talent.
Yeah.
But do you want to be part of a roadshow, like a run or something?
Can. I'm sure our own HR is doing it too.
But if you want to do
but I just want to do it on the side because sometimes
pick up very specific people.
Okay lah. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.